Like and subscribe right now, or this spider is gonna crawl on your face while you're sleeping.
10 scary stories told by real time travelers. What is relentless, ruthless, and unstoppable? A few megalomaniacs would claim that they are, but there's no creature nor any force on Earth as powerful, tangible, and difficult to grasp at the same time as time itself. As mighty as it is, time isn't as universal of a concept as we might think. A few cultures don't incorporate the time concept as part of their understanding of the universe. Can you imagine living it without any reference to the past or future? Sure, it would be crazy for most of us, educated through time and space notions. We don't want to get too dense about this. We did our research about time traveling and found many exciting, freaky, shocking, and scary things. We're still trying to digest all of this information. Some theorists claim that time travel is possible. Still, we can't explain the paradoxes implied by it, neither the impact that it could have on the delicate equilibrium of the universe. If you go back in time and your actions prevent you from existing, how could you have traveled back in time in the first place? Some scientists think that going back in time might be impossible, while going forward might be. Yet, if you travel into the future, does it correspond to the same timeline you're living in now? Can you find another you in the future that survived without time traveling? At MindRead, we're still puzzled about this and have many other questions. Many of the stories shared by time travelers look like hoaxes, while others are very creepy. Keep watching to the end. We are sure you'll be freaked out about the top spots. Number 10. Texting from the beach. Have you texted while walking around the beach? There isn't anything special about it, and we could say there's nothing special about this picture, but many people claim that a man is texting wearing a dark suit at the beach back in September of 1943. This guy was a careless time traveler. How would you dare use a mobile device in 1943 on a beach, surrounded by people? If that happened in my grandparents' town, well, they would ask them what the heck is in your hands in no time. Still, if this picture isn't edited, why is the guy dressed like that?
Before we move on, I've got a challenge for you that will only take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. Leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And boom, 25 years of amazing luck. Try it. It really works.
Number 9. John Tetore. Between 2000 and 2001, the notorious John Tetore claimed that he was a time traveler. He had become famous after publishing his story through an online bulletin board. We haven't used that thing either, but we understand that it was some kind of vintage messaging app from the 1980s. Mysteriously, Tetore didn't come from the past, but from 2036 on a military mission. He explained that many timelines and worlds coexist, so time travel paradoxes are impossible. In fact, he claimed that he belonged to our timeline, so he knew when the short but lethal Nuclear World War III would occur. He warned us that this war would cause the appalling loss of 3 billion human lives. Yet, his credibility dived down when he got the dates wrong. He predicted, or, well, he read in his history books that this war happened in 2015. But, happily, Tetore was wrong, or we did something spectacularly good to prevent this war from happening. A reason to toast in 2020, at last! Number 8. Andrew Carlson. Some media claimed that a man named Andrew Carlson was arrested in March 2003 after successfully making 126 high-risk stock trades without missing any of his bets for 2 weeks, not a single one. Yikes! This guy transformed $800 into $350 million through stock trading in a blink. Of course, that raised suspicions, and the SEC arrested him right away. Several sources claim that he confessed to belong to another time, 200 years in the future. He tried to cut a deal with the police, offering the cure for AIDS in the location of Osama bin Laden so that we could return him to his time machine. After Carlson talked a bit too much, he was set free after a mysterious man paid his bail. Obviously, the alleged time traveler disappeared and never attended a court hearing. If you're inclined to conspiracy theories, you would be excited to know that there aren't really any records about this man, but a few images about news published about the Andrew Carlson story. However, if you prefer fact-checking, you'll notice that there's a less exciting version of this. Several sources claim that this is a fictional story, published in a satiric tone by a tabloid called Weekly World News. What do you think? Conspiracy? Hoax? Number 7. Someone doesn't fit at this picture. Experts claim that this picture from 1941 is authentic. It shows the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Golden Bridge, British Columbia, in Canada. The notorious style of young man inside the photograph drew a lot of attention. His sunglasses and casual looks are more common in a present-day guy. This guy looks like he was wearing a printed t-shirt and a sweater. That is quite unconventional when we compare his looks with the people around him. However, no one seems to pay much attention to him. How could we explain that a time traveler goes into the past so unprepared? Was he traveling to 1941 accidentally? Many people would claim that this is a hoax. However, if this picture is authentic, how did he manage to dress so differently at that time? Tell us your opinion about it. Number 6. A cell phone in a silent movie. A few years ago, in 2010, George Clark uploaded a YouTube video about a time traveler who was using a mobile phone in 1928. This young woman walks casually and doesn't make a serious effort to hide the device in a crowded street. This footage comes from bonus material included in a DVD of The Circus, a Charlie Chaplin film, and it shows a scene of the Los Angeles premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater. Although Clark claimed that the girl was a time traveler using a cell phone, it's pretty impossible to discern what she's holding in her hand. Some researchers argue that this footage doesn't show anything unusual. Hearing aids at the time fit the size and the way of using shown in this video. So perhaps the girl wasn't a time traveler, but instead someone using a rectangular ear trumpet. I just learned that this thing even existed, but it seems a bit more credible than a careless time traveler at the movies, right? Number 5. What time was it? We don't know why archaeologists would want to open up an ancient tomb. Haven't we learned anything after Tutankhamun's curse? Yet, these guys did it again in 2008 in China. An archaeologist found a disturbing object after he opened up a 4-century-year-old tomb. A witness claims that it sounded like a small metal object hitting the ground, but when they examined it closer, it was made of stone. The creepy thing about this small object inside the tomb was that it was a tiny representation of a watch carved in stone. As we know, wristwatches weren't popular until the very beginning of the 20th century. Previous versions were more like old-school ones with a leather strap. This sculpture looks a lot more like a present-day watch, and in its back, it has the word Swiss engraved. The watch time was set at 10:06. How did this object get there? How was it made? Could an ancient Chinese magician or scientist foresee 4 centuries into the future? Did a time traveler give this object to a present to a dead lover? Can you figure this out? Number 4. Time traveling nightmare. In 1932, a journalist and a photographer went into Hamburg to document a story about the local shipyard. The regular, no-frill trip suddenly turned into a nightmare when the city was the center of a horrifying military attack. Both men ran and took as many pictures as they could, taking notes about the event. The journalist wrote a detailed description of the attack, the buildings destroyed, and surveyed the local authorities quickly to learn how this attack affected the city. They managed to escape and return to Berlin unharmed. Yet, when they developed the film, they found out that there wasn't any evidence of the attack. The picture showed regular images of Hamburg. The photographer disappeared mysteriously, perhaps thinking he went crazy. The journalist tried to get back on track, make up a story, and continue with his life. In his notebook, he wrote, "What did they put in our drinks?" He simply thought they were delusional after getting severely intoxicated. However, in 1943, the journalist found that they weren't victims of poisoning, but some sort of time travelers. Operation Gomorrah was an air raid that targeted Hamburg, causing much of the destruction he had witnessed with his missing companion. How did these men experience this attack 11 years earlier? Sadly, only some notes and the declarations of a man are the only evidence behind this story. Do you believe this is possible? Number 3. Truthful? A man claimed that he came from 2030 and accepted to take a lie detector test. Unlike most alleged time travelers, this guy passed it. As he answered several questions successfully, we learned that he was suffering from depression and anxiety due to time travel side effects. According to him, time travel has been possible since 2003, will go public in 2028. Technology to regenerate tissue, fight against aging, and climate change are just a part of the stories from the future. Yet, he didn't warn us about any pandemic, so we don't really believe you much, buddy. Now, get ready for today's top pick, because the best pick is quite shocking. Number 2. The best pick. Mike Tyson is one of the most impressive and dominant heavyweight champions in history. Sadly, his dark side took control too early in his life. In 1995, Tyson was coming back after serving 3 years in prison. McNeely was an unknown contender compared with other candidates like George Foreman. However, the fight generated more than $96 million, including more than $63 million income per pay-view only. The fight didn't even last 90 seconds, as Tyson overpowered McNeely, whose manager entered the ring to stop the carnage. During that short time, at the beginning of the fight, we can see something popular nowadays. Someone looks like they're filming the match with a smartphone. We've watched this footage a lot of times and still can't find a decent explanation. It really looks like a smartphone. In 1995, even cell phones and cameras weren't part of the same device. I mean, the first cell phone with a camera was launched into the market in 2000, 5 years after the fight. And if you come from the future, why would you shoot a video from your seat? What's the purpose of it? Number 1. Paul Danach. Paul Danach was a Swiss-Austrian teacher. He fell into a coma in the year 1921. When he came back, he wrote a diary that he kept secrets in for several years. Later, he talked with one of his students, Georgios Papashatzis, to translate the diary and keep it secret. His diary was found some years later. In it, he claimed to have awakened in the body of a man in 3906 AD. His description of the future, almost 2,000 years in the future, are captivating. Danach describes a hopeful and inspiring future, yet people quickly noticed that he wasn't Andrew Northman, his rightful body owner. So what happened to Northman while Danach was in a coma? Did Northman return to his body when Danach came back to a present time? We're happy that Danach found a decent world in 3906 AD. Things are gonna improve, just a bit slower than we hoped. Keep tuned and watch more of our incredible videos here at MindRead.